Well, there are disturbing signs that conservatism is declining, not among ordinary people, but among politicians. My next guest, West Australian law academic Rocco Loiacono, says it's getting increasingly difficult to find conservative politicians who are bold enough to propose conserving anything. And he joins me now. Rocco, welcome.
Great to be with you, Fred.
Firstly, Rocco, let's talk about Boris Johnson. He seemed like a conservative at first, promising to deliver Brexit, which is essentially conserving the idea of sovereignty. That's a novel one, which Britain had temporarily compromised. But did Johnson turn out to be a conservative in the end?
Well, no, on everything else. He governed as a left-of-centre politician would. Particularly when he went down the path of net zero. And you can only see that after 2019 and through 2020 with COVID, I mean, they spent up big, they abandoned any pretense of maintaining fiscal discipline and then went down this net zero path. And that's, I think, what obviously got Johnson into trouble. The whole Partygate thing, in my view, and in the view of many, was simply a pretext to get rid of him. The whole unpopularity of the Conservative government, I believe, started when they abandoned these conservative principles and embraced this net zero cult, which meant that people who put them into government in that red wall were the ones who are facing the higher energy bills, the higher tax burden and all these other kind of things, which traditionally Conservatives are supposed to argue against because that is their natural constituency.
It is indeed. But when you say they had to get rid of him, the party itself isn't behaving like a Conservative party either. So who actually got rid of him?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, the Conservative Party in the UK, and as we've seen in Australia, they haven't behaved like Conservative parties for many years. The thing about Johnson was that obviously he was the only one to argue against the zeitgeist of Brexit. So when Partygate came along, it was a convenient excuse. And for them, I think the now preferred candidate for the people who wanted to get rid of Boris, Rishi Sunak, has now been installed. A hedge fund manager, a billionaire, who has probably as much in common with the everyday person and his or her problems as I have with Eskimos, which is to say nothing at all.
Yeah, you only have one word for snow. Anyway, so listen, Rocco, let's just get back to Boris, though. We'll get back to Sunak in a minute. But, I mean, Boris had an approval rating in April 2020 of 66%. It dropped pretty quickly soon after that because, the honeymoon period doesn't last forever. But it was a steady decline to all the way to 25% when he was toppled in August. Now, as you pointed out, this coincides with the COVID lockdowns and his embracing of net zero. Isn't it obvious that that there's a causal relationship there?
Well, that's it. And the Conservative platform traditionally is built on respect for the rule of law and civil liberties and also economic liberalism. And those things throughout COVID were abandoned. In particular, over the last 2 years, were abandoned. The idea that Lord Sumption summed it up perfectly when he said we've seen the greatest trashing of civil liberties in over 200 years. And probably Johnson would have gone against his natural instincts, you would have thought, in that kind of thing. And it became obvious to many when his then chief health advisor broke the lockdown rules to go off and have a night out with his girlfriend that this thing that these lockdowns really were untenable.